a reminder of the collective responsibility we bear to protect our shared humanity. Thank you all.
Please welcome Jack Berger, President and CEO, Museum of Jewish Heritage, a living memorial to the Holocaust.
Sehr hoch. Good afternoon. I'm Jack Kleger, President, CEO of the Museum of Jewish Heritage, a living memorial to the Holocaust. Thank you, Rita, for your lovely remarks and also for your ongoing work for the museum, for the Jewish people, and particularly for this event, which is now in its third decade of being involved with the museum. And thank you, Bruce, for your ongoing leadership, your commitment, and your passion to what we do and what we continue to do. I want to thank our staff, both the Temple Emanu-El staff as well as the museum staff, for doing such a wonderful job in preparing this event. I particularly want to thank Gabriel Sanders, Stephen Jacobson, and the rest of the team at the museum. I also want to thank all our volunteers and all those who were involved in creating this effort. And I really want to thank and welcome the survivors and their descendants, the second, the third, fourth generations, who are able to join us today. Thank you all for being here in person, where we have over 600 people here, and I want to thank all those who are joining us virtually, over 1,000 people around the world, including my mother and sister in the other Jewish state of Florida. Mom, if you're watching, I want to tell you that I do appreciate what you said about after a long career in for-profit, when I became president and CEO of the museum, you told me I finally had a job with dignity. The Annual Gathering of Remembrance is very much for and about those we lost and those who survived, those who rebuilt and those who remembered. We welcome and honor the survivors who join us today, both physically and virtually. If you are a survivor and you can stand, or if you can just raise your hand, please do so, as we'd like to recognize you. The mission of the museum has always been about remembrance of those we lost, the witnesses, those who survived, and the education of future generations. It has been and remains our pledge that there will always be a place in New York, a memorial, where survivors can know that their grandchildren's grandchildren will always have a place to come visit, to come learn, and to come teach. The second, third, and fourth generation descendants of survivors are the future of our institution, future membership, future leadership. And I'd like anyone here who's a descendant of a survivor, second, third, fourth generation, to please stand up and be recognized as well. Today, we'll commemorate the 6 million. We'll honor those who survived, those who continue to remember, those who teach and learn with us, and all those who enrich our lives and teach the lessons of history. And as Bruce said, in the ongoing fight against anti-Semitism, we will stay firmly and solidly committed. This we pledge. Thank you.
Please welcome Rabbi Amy Ehrlich.
O source of life eternal, our times are in your hands. One generation comes into this world to be blessed with days of peace and safety. Another goes through the valley of shadow, enduring the cruelties of persecution and war. Yet we lift our voices to thee, the source of consolation and hope. As we gather in this sacred space to sanctify this day as one of memorial for the 6 million who perished in the Shoah, we give thanks for the blessing of memory. In this hour and always, may we continue to honor the remarkable courage of those who fought against their Nazi oppressors and those survivors whose faith allowed them to start a new chapter in their lives. May we use the terrible lessons of their suffering to inform our own lives and stand up to confront and defeat the growing threats of bigotry, hatred, and intolerance. In this blessed land of liberty, may we recognize the responsibility we have for the freedoms that are ours and work to protect them for all to enjoy. As long as we remember, the meaning of their lives will endure. And when we act against hatred in their name, we will perpetuate their legacy, which will ever bind generation to generation and heart to heart. Zichronam livracha. May their memories be an enduring blessing now and evermore. And let us say together, Amen.
Please welcome HaZamir Choir.
Jugend geht voraus. Jugend geht voraus. Jugend geht voraus. Jugend geht voraus. Die Jugend geht voraus. Die Jugend geht voraus. Sven geht voraus. Unser Lied ist voll mit Treue. Trifft ist unser Untergang. Trotz der Seine wacht man teuer. Sturmjugend mit Gesang. Weil jung ist jeder, wer es will noch. Jahren haben kein Badeit. Alte kennen euch sein Kinder. Von einer neuen, freier Zeit. Jung ist jeder, wer es will noch. Jahren haben kein Badeit. Alte kennen euch sein Kinder. Von einer neuen, freier Zeit. Jugend geht voraus. Jugend geht voraus. Jugend geht voraus. Jugend geht voraus.
Speaker Ilana Yaari.
Good afternoon, everyone. In August 1943, Germany's final solution for the Jewish problem took a turn for the worst. The SS soldiers and the Warsaw Ghetto Jewish police were instructed to arrest every Jew and deliver them to Umschlagplatz before transporting them to Treblinka's extermination camp to vanish with the chimney smoke. The smoke was designed to blow away the evidence of this unspeakable crime. But nothing vanished in nature, not even in a black hole. It just takes a different form. The headstones in Treblinka will continue to tell the story for generations to come. So how am I connected to Treblinka? I was hiding under the floor in a basement with 53 people when the SS uncovered and flushed us out. We were counted as inventory and marched to by the Jewish police to Umschlagplatz, the deportation point of the death camp in Treblinka. It was a brilliant autumn day with golden leaves glittering in the sunshine. As we approached Umschlagplatz, the gold turned gray, a world without color, a world without time. The open cattle trains were standing ready to swallow the new cargo. The only sound I can recall was the constant shouting in German. So what's next? Crying babies were thrown against the wall and killed. We were housed on several floors in what used to be a hospital building. I was experienced in hiding and disappeared under a bench. I was 6 years old and still believed in fairy tales, especially the ones with happy endings. They kept me sane, alive for almost a month, hoping for rescue. Food consisted of potato peel soup and black coffee once a day. Cattle trains stood ready to move, but where they are going to take us? We were to be the last transport to Treblinka, as the Germans were busy watching for the signs of the ghetto uprising and simultaneously quelling the massive Jewish revolt that was taking place at Treblinka. They were busy to getting rid of the evidence. After a month at Umschlagplatz, I was rescued by a Jewish policeman and smuggled to freedom by my Polish nanny out of the ghetto. Her name was Maria Popinska, my private Mary Poppins, and a Yad Vashem reaches among the nations. I returned to Treblinka on my 80th birthday, surrounded by my children and grandchildren. It was a brilliantly sunny day, but we could not hear birds singing. We gazed at the communal headstones. One of them could have been my mother's. She and countless of my family relatives were victims of the Treblinka fire. Raindrops started falling on our heads, mingling with our tears. But looking at the sky, we spotted a rainbow. Maybe fairy tales do come true after all. Thank you.
Please welcome Stephen Skybell.
From 1939 to 1945, 6 million Jews were murdered by the Nazis. 1.5 million of them were children. In 1945, Yosef Papirnikov, who was a Yiddish and Israeli poet who had been born in Poland and worked as a forced laborer for the Germans in the First World War, wrote this testimonial for the lost children. While the numbers of those lost is staggering and almost incomprehensible, the heartbreak of Papirnikov's song is that he names the children. The music is by the renowned cantor Israel Alter, and this is the English translation. Under the little green trees of Poland, little Moishes and Shloimis are playing no more. No more little Sarahs and Leahs, not in the grass and not in the snow. No longer heard are the young Jewish voices of daredevil Motel and Shimon the prankster. Their scuffed, dirty faces told of their valor, spoke of their exploits, and dreams of adventure. The green trees of Poland are now in mourning. Dead are the old Jewish houses and dwellings. Dead are the little streets lying in ruins, where children like mice hid from the villain. Jewish children with large eyes, shining black eyes, yet dark and foreboding. Eyes filled with panic, suspicion, despair by the evil that was inflicted upon them. Under the little green trees of Poland, little Moishes and Shloimis are playing no more. No more Sarahs, no more Leahs. Not in the grass, not in the snow. Unter die polische grünige Bäumelach spielen sich mehr nicht kein Mäuschelach, Schleumelach. Spielen sich mehr nicht kein Zorelach, Leelach, nicht auf kein Gräselach, nicht auf kein Schneelach. Silchen scheun mir nicht die jüdische Stimmelach, von de Kondeisemlach, Motelach, Schimmelach, mit die zerkrellte, zerdrappete Zurelach, von einem Beweisen, von deinem und Gewurelach. Sind die polische Bäumelach, dort sind die jüdische Heimen und Heimelach, dort sind Gäselach, Chorev die Heiselach, wo es verstecken sich Kinder wie Meiselach. Die schwarze Azoi wie mit Cheuschech Fahrzeugen Hegelig volle mit Pachet verlaufene unter dem Unglück dem bräunem getroffene unter die polnische Grüninke Beinelach spielen sich mehr nicht kein Mäuschelach Schleimelach spielen sich mehr nicht kein Soralach Leilach nicht auf kein Gräselach, nicht auf kein Schneelach.
Please welcome Congressperson Dan Goldman.
That was really touching. It's wonderful to be here with all of you today. I see Senator Schumer down here, Ambassador Thomas-Greenfield, and many others who are leaders of this community, of which I'm very proud to be one. We often say never forget the worst genocide in history. And as we celebrate Yom HaShoah, it is all the more important because too many people seem to be forgetting the Holocaust. I'm not only proud to be the representative of the Museum of Jewish Heritage, but I'm also proud to represent the community of Borough Park in Brooklyn, which has the largest population of Holocaust survivors and their families in this country. And as a proud American Jew myself, Yom HaShoah is deeply personal to me and to my constituents. I would like to stand here and read the names of those of my neighbors and those in my community and those in my district who lost family and loved ones in the Holocaust, but it would take days to do so. The list is simply too long. And so today we must acknowledge the uncomfortable reality that we as a country are not adequately passing on the critical lessons from the Holocaust to the next generations. My grandmother escaped Jewish persecution in Russia in the early 20th century, and we Jews are tied together by that shared experience and history of anti-Semitism and persecution. And we must continue to teach that history. We are blessed here today to be able to hear from Holocaust survivors like some we just heard from and will hear more from. And they can help pass along their own personal experiences of the Holocaust. But sadly, with time, there are fewer and fewer of our Jewish heroes available to do that. And that's why I was proud to co-sponsor the Holocaust Education and Anti-Semitism Lessons Act, or the HEAL Act, in Congress this term to examine the state of Holocaust education in public schools nationwide and to assess the degree to which it has been treated sometimes as an afterthought. Because as we all know, our past informs our future. Some around the country are trying to whitewash our history, which will only lead us to repeat the wrongs of our past. And if we don't pass along those lessons of the Holocaust, then we invite hatred of all kinds to rear its ugly head once again. I do not take any joy in the fact that a large part of my work and my office's work over the past month during appropriation season has been spent on appropriating additional funding for nonprofit security grants that can be used by Jewish educational, cultural, and religious institutions to improve security and protect themselves from acts of hateful violence. And what's even worse is how many people, especially how many Jewish cultural institutions, are applying for these grants. The need for such funding has sadly become a necessity. But as dark as today is in many respects, I am here to shine a light on the bright future that I know we can all share. We can strive towards a better future for our children and communities that have suffered from discrimination and hate throughout our country. We can engage more. We can teach more. We can unite to ensure that we all do not let discrimination and hate win. And I see that happening all over this city and this country, especially groups that have been discriminated against are banding together, because together we are stronger than we are separate. And I know that together, those of us here and those of us around this city can turn the tide, can realize a safer, more welcoming, and loving future for all of us. And so today I ask that each of you take a moment to reflect, to confront our past, and acknowledge the work that we must do to make the future one that we can truly be proud of. Thank you for having me.
Please welcome Jerry Lindenstraus.
My name is Jerry Lindenstraus. I was born in 1929 in a small town in East Prussia, Germany. We had a good life until 1933 when the Nazis came to power. They immediately made us sell our family-owned department store at a fraction of the price, called Zwangsverkauf, forced sale. Then in 1938 came the Kristallnacht pogroms, where all synagogues in Germany and Austria and many Jewish businesses were burned, including my Jewish school. I was 9 years old. So my father and many others decided it was time to leave Germany. Hitler wanted the Jews to get out, to make Germany Judenrein without Jews. The State Department here, as well as in many other countries, made it very difficult for us. And then my father and others discovered there's one place in the world where you could go to without a visa, without any documents, on the other side of the world, and that was Shanghai, where you could go without any papers. So about 18,000, mainly German and Austrian Jews, went there between 1938 and 1941, with only their clothes on their back and without money. We left in July 1939, 1 month before the war started, on the last German ship. The shock on arrival in Shanghai was incredible. Poverty, rickshaws, opium dens, and professional beggars. My father died 6 months after we arrived, an indirect victim of the Holocaust. I said Kaddish for him in a small Russian synagogue, where I also became a bar mitzvah 3 years later. The Nazis sent a Colonel Meinsinger to Shanghai to convince the Japanese, who were their allies, to get us all killed. And there was evidence about it. But the Japanese refused. Instead, they established a ghetto in a half-bombed-out neighborhood where all the 18,000 refugees had to move into. We lived under terrible conditions, without running water, tropical diseases, never enough food and medicines. I had malaria and jaundice. It was very tough for the adults who sold their belongings on the street to get a job. We kids had a school given to us by Horowitz, which was a godsend. We even got bombed by American B-29s once. But we survived, and we were the lucky ones when we found out what happened in Europe. The Chinese government built a museum for us in the former ghetto, where I spoke twice, being invited. I now give talks at the museum downtown to high school students. And I want to tell you what I tell my grandkids all the time. If it wouldn't have been for Shanghai, I wouldn't be here, and neither would they. Thank you. Short but sweet. I can do it.
Good afternoon. My name is Linda Thomas-Greenfield. I'm the U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, and I'm honored to be here among all of you today, particularly with the survivors and their descendants. I want to thank President Klieger and the entire team at the Museum of Jewish Heritage for bringing us together to commemorate Yom HaShoah. Earlier this month, the world lost Ben Ferenz, the last living Nuremberg trial prosecutor. As a U.S. war crimes investigator during World War II, Ferenz was a witness to the horrors of the Holocaust. Decades later, he would write, and I quote, "Even today, when I close my eyes, I witness a deadly vision I can never forget. The crematoria aglow with the fire of burning flesh, the mounds of emaciated corpses stacked like cordwood, waiting to be burned. I had peered into hell." After the war, Ferenz, at the ripe age of 27, successfully prosecuted Nazi leaders who carried out these crimes against humanity. But his quest for justice did not end with Nuremberg. He would go on to secure compensation for victims of the Holocaust, and he devoted the rest of his life to preventing future crimes against humanity, advocating for the ICC, and rooting out all forms of hate. Now it is our responsibility to carry his legacy forward, especially as we see anti-Semitism and Holocaust denial rise to terrifying heights. Anti-Semitism has been called the world's oldest form of hatred. Once again, it is threatening the safety and security of Jewish people. At this perilous moment, we must all stand with the Jewish community, and the Biden administration is deeply committed to this urgent work. Last year, President Biden announced that we were launching a national strategy for countering anti-Semitism, and our administration has secured the largest ever funding increase for the physical security of nonprofits, including synagogues and Jewish community centers. Here in New York, we helped pass a UN General Assembly resolution to condemn Holocaust denial and distortion, the first resolution of its kind in 15 years. And earlier this year, the United States hosted a high-level side event at the United Nations that put a focus on global efforts to combat anti-Semitism. This meeting was widely attended by UN ambassadors and senior UN and US officials, and I was privileged to represent the United States alongside Second Gentleman Inhofe and Deborah Lipstadt, the first ambassador-level special envoy to monitor and combat anti-Semitism. As we work to stamp out anti-Semitism and all forms of hate, we are also intensely focused on crimes against humanity being carried out around the world, in Xinjiang, in Russian-occupied areas of Ukraine, and most recently in Burma and Mali and northern Ethiopia. Unfortunately, we have not yet lived up to the solemn promise of never again. Not when the Jewish community still faces discrimination and violence, and not when so many people around the world, the most vulnerable, still face unthinkable acts of cruelty and persecution. The Nuremberg trials taught friends, and I quote, that creating a world of tolerance and compassion would be a long and arduous task. But that did not deter him, and it must not deter us. So let us recommit here and now, to working together to build a more just, a more peaceful future for us all. Thank you very much.
Please welcome Senator Charles Schumer.
Good afternoon. It is always a profound honor to participate in this annual gathering of remembrance, which I do every year. And as the highest-ranking Jewish elected official in American history, I do not take lightly what it took for me to get to where I am today, and more importantly, what my responsibilities are. First, I want to thank the Museum of Jewish Heritage and your great board chairman, Bruce Ratner, your wonderful president and CEO, Jack Klieger, for all you do to keep the memory of Holocaust victims alive, not just today, but every day. I also want to acknowledge our venue and host today, Temple Emanu-El, led by President Harris Diamond and Senior Rabbi Joshua Davidson. This has always been a place of spiritual refuge for so many, and I thank you for your opening your doors to this important gathering. Now, why are we here today? Because we have, all of us, a moral responsibility to make sure the Holocaust's terrible stain on humanity never fades from memory. We must constantly reckon with what happened, because a genocide that's not properly told and remembered can lead to another and another and another. And we owe it to the survivors, to their families, and indeed to the whole world to continue to bear witness to the tragic legacy of the Holocaust, repeating our conviction and our prayer, never again. 2 months ago, on the first international trip I led as Democratic Senate leader, I took 8 other senators to Dachau in Germany and Yad Vashem in Israel. At Dachau, we walked through the gas chamber and the crematoria, on the same ground where thousands of innocent souls were murdered. We laid a wreath to honor the memory of the 6 million Jews whose lives were cut short, and reaffirmed our commitment on behalf of the American government to never again turn a blind eye to evil. And then we visited Yad Vashem. I've been there many times, but every time I go, something else hits me. In the beautiful gallery of children with all the stars lit up, they had pictures of the children who were murdered by the Nazis. I saw a picture of a little girl, age 5, Rosalie from Romania. She looked exactly like my sister. I think of that all the time. The trip was personal for me because so many of my ancestors were wiped out by the Nazis in Galicia. My great-grandmother, the widow of a famous rabbi, was told in their town of Chortkov to gather all of her family on their porch, as they had the Jews of Chortkov gather in the town square. 35 people gathered from age 85 to 3 months. The Nazis said to my great-grandmother, probably the best-known Jew in that town, "You're coming with us." She said, "We're not moving." They machine-gunned every one of my ancestors there. So at a time when anti-Semitism is once again on the rise, here in America and around the world, this gathering of remembrance has never been more critical. And even the time of year when we're coming together today is significant and sends a powerful message. It's a special month for people of all different faiths. We Jews just finished celebrating Pesach. While last weekend Catholic and Protestant Christians celebrated Easter, today Orthodox Christians celebrate Easter and Muslims Ramadan. So, with what these different holidays and names and dates and traditions obscure is a simple truth, that what we have in common is greater than what divides us, and why we must fight bigotry in every way. A few of our speakers mentioned the nonprofit security grant that gives money to our synagogues, our shuls, our yeshivas, our shtiblach, to protect themselves against the vandalism that we have seen. I started that grant with $90 million 4 years ago. Last year it got $305 million. Today we hope to raise it to $360 million to protect and not just stand idly by as these vicious and increasing acts of anti-Semitism against our institutions are rising. My friends, we all share a universal belief in the divine, a higher power that gives order to our world and to our universe, that brings the powerful low and the powerless high, that delivers true relief and justice to those who are suffering. We all sadly know that nothing will ever bring back the 6 million or lessen the terrible tragedy of pain, the generational trauma caused by their murder. The living survivors of the Holocaust continue to live with the terrible memories. But as God be my witness, I say to you that they will have their justice, if not in this world, then in the next. And we know if we continue to fight bigotry and anti-Semitism and continue to profess our faith, then in both Israel and America, Am Yisrael Chai, the people Israel live.
Please welcome Acting General Counsel for Israel, Israel Nitzan.
Dear survivors, families, and members of the community. First of all, I want to thank the Museum of Jewish Heritage and Temple Emanu-El for including us in this meaningful program. As we gather here today, I'm reminded of a haunting poem by an Israeli poet, a Holocaust survivor, Dan Pagis, written in pencil in the sealed freight car. It speaks to the unimaginable horrors that were inflicted upon the Jewish people during the Holocaust and the enduring legacy of that tragedy. The poem describes the desperate act of a mother who carves her child's name into the walls of sealed freight car as they are transported to an unknown fate. It is a poignant reminder of the humanity that was stripped away from millions of innocent lives, reduced to mere numbers in the Nazi death machine. This short poem, only a few words, moves from between the private and personal experiences and stories and our collective, historic, and in this case, a biblical scale in this poem, tragedy. Like in Pagis's poem, for us in Israel and the Jewish communities around the world, the Holocaust is not just a historical event, but a deeply personal and collective trauma that has shaped our identity, our sense of purpose. We remember the 6 million Jews who were murdered, and we honor their memory by striving to create a world free of hate, prejudice, and intolerance. The State of Israel has a historic and moral responsibility to make sure that when we say never again, it is never again. Israel has a responsibility to speak up and call out anti-Semitism and act against anti-Semitic attacks against Jews. And we condemn this unacceptable rise in anti-Semitic attacks in recent years, here in the United States. And of course, we also thank the local and national leadership and law enforcement agencies here in the United States for acting decisively on a daily basis to fight against this phenomenon. The State of Israel has another responsibility to help Jews wherever and whenever it is required, and to serve as a home and a shelter for all Jews. In Israel, we continue to grapple with the legacy of the Holocaust. In many ways, we must act. We must act in Israel, here in New York, in the United States, and around the world through education to make sure that the horrors of the Holocaust are never forgotten and that the lessons of the Holocaust are being taught and learned by the next generations. That they learn about the need to fight anti-Semitism, that they learn about the need to stand up and fight against racism and against hatred, and actually also about the outcome, the horrific outcome of hate, and about the need to create a better world.
We remember the victims of the Holocaust, so let us also celebrate the survivors, and let us learn from their experiences and their wisdom. They are a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and an inspiration to all of us. But we also have another responsibility to the survivors. Some of the survivors also need our help. In Israel and here, many, too many, live in poverty. And we need to work together for their well-being and their welfare. And it is our moral duty. Let us remember the words of Dan Pagis and the countless others who lost their lives during the Holocaust. Let us carve their memory privately and collectively in our hearts, and let it serve as a reminder of our responsibility and a call for action to build a better world. May their memory be a blessing.
Please welcome Toby Levy.
Can everybody hear me? Hi, everyone. I usually talk for an hour and a half, and I give you a story. But this time, since we so many and really not need to, I'll just give you 5 minutes of my parents, how they tried to teach me how to survive. I give my father and my mother credit. The minute the Germans walked into I was born in a small town, the same year Hitler came to power. 1941, the Germans walked into our town. And the minute they had the sessions and told us exactly where we stand, my mother and father come upstairs and say to each other, none of us are going to make it unless we have help. If we don't have help from outside, we'll have to look for help from inside. And I was the younger one. I had an older sister. I was 8.5 by then. My sister was 12.5. He was trying to teach me how to survive, showing me what to do, giving me 2 addresses in case he doesn't come home from work, and Mom doesn't come home, and Betty is not here. What do you do? Wait. If nobody shows up, then he gave me 2 addresses to go to non-Jewish homes. My father was very well known in town and liked in town by Jews and non-Jews. And he shows me, and then he takes me, he wants to see to follow. Then he teaches me, if you come home and there are Germans in the house and you can hide. If you should watch my head to find not my head, yes or no. He gave me these instructions which were overwhelming for me. Slowly, I got the message that I have to listen to my father and watch him intensely. And then he decided that no way is he going to wait where the Germans are going to decide what to do with us. He said to my mom, I'm going to look for a hiding place. And so we did. So us 4, my mom's sister with 2 younger children, and my maternal grandmother, 9 people, we were going into hiding. My father found this woman, her name was Stephanie Struck, and a 16-year-old boy, her son, saved 9 people. But in a very, very wonderful feeling that I have about people. I can't complain, really. And before we go into hiding, he's telling me again, since I'm the young, listen, we're going into hiding. You can't talk, you can't cry, you can't laugh, you can't ask for anything. You're going to have to watch me and learn from me. We must be very quiet. I learned very quick quickly how to become a human adult. I was 8, I was 9, I was 10, I was 11, by 12 when we were liberated in 1944. But the 2 years in hiding, my father had a job teaching me and the other children how to survive, which means not to hate. His main issue was we should not hate. He says, if you hate, then you cannot make a normal life. And then he kept saying, someone has to survive to tell the world what happened, how the world was standing still and letting it happen. Maybe it's us. Every day, my father went into hiding with his talit and tefillin, that's all, and one sack full of material. We didn't have any money. She didn't do it for money. She did it because she was a human being and she didn't hate us. For the full 2 years, he was telling us stories, who we are, where we are, the story of survival, and then he made sure that I can read and write the Jewish alphabet. And then he said, if we make it, you will have to go to school and get educated and tell the world. Well, 1944 I was liberated in 44 by the Russians. We made it. 31 people survived in my town, all in hiding. Nobody came back from any place else. 45, the war ended. The Russians said to us, if you want to leave, leave now. Of course, we were all got on that train, ready to go. Where we're going, we don't know. Out of that horror place where we lived. We come to the big city. Sure enough, there are other survivors. There were right away leadership, speaking in Jewish and in Hebrew, looking to get together to put him to the American zone. I remember when my father made for me a little basket, like a square basket to put a book, not toys, a book, a pencil. But in the basket, he made a double layer, and he had a coin, either a coin or money. But as we traveled in groups, and we were in this big hotel, and I think it was in Vienna, but just overnight sleeping in each little group, sitting in its separate little corner. And my father says to me, you see this little tin bag that you're carrying? You have to watch this overnight because we're sleeping all the people together. Somebody will steal it. If they steal it away from us, on the other city, when we get there, we will not have any money to eat. Trust me, I did not sleep that night. Of course, I was together with my parents, all of us together. But I was responsible. My father felt if he gives that little basket to hold to the youngest one, nobody will steal it. Certainly, nobody stole it. And we got to the other side of the city. He opened it up, and we had money to eat. These little teachings made me who I am. I don't have hatred. When finally in 1949 we were all able to leave, we were supposed to go to Israel, but the last minute changes, we came to the United States. We started living a life. Finally, we had a life, we looked forward. I had children. Again, I have to raise children. I don't know how to raise children. I wasn't raised in normal time. What do I do? My parents lived in New Orleans. My sister-in-law did on live. Where do I look for? I knock on the door in the Museum of Jewish Heritage. It's about 12, 13 years ago. That's where I knocked on the door. They took me in, taught me, gave me the chance to speak. I have been speaking ever since then. I try to teach, and I give you an example that I do succeed in individual children. Mainly my teaching and talking is not to hate. Because I saw in the Germans, when a German killed a little girl in front of my house, I saw that he looked at this child. He didn't see her as a normal child. He saw her as a roach. He killed her, that she meant nothing. I realized that hatred is the core to all these horrors. So to me, it's important to talk of hate. Once I speak in high school kids, I give you an example. This child, a young girl says to me, "Did you ever want revenge?" Instantly, I knew I'd have my revenge. I have my revenge. I'm here to tell. I have Jewish children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. She writes me a letter back. "I never knew you knew that you can have revenge without killing." So I do some good. It's not enough. We need, like he said, we need the whole world. I realize many times I speak in schools that the kids are really, really bad shape. The teachers are afraid to leave me, I should speak. But when I'm finished, many of them come over and hug me and kiss me and say, "Teach me how to make it." I said, "It's not easy, but you can do it. First, you must learn to like yourself and not to hate. So one step at a time, you can make it." Here I am, Hineni. I am here to do my job. Thank you.
Welcome, Chloe Kent.
My name is Chloe Kent, and I am the grandchild of Ruth Kent, who was one of the youngest survivors of Auschwitz. Born in Łódź, Poland, my grandmother and her family were forced into the ghetto until it was liquidated in 1944. The family was then sent to Auschwitz, and most were immediately put to death. But my grandmother was sent on to a labor camp and also survived a forced march. She was liberated by the Russian army and reunited with two of her brothers after the war. They immigrated to suburban Detroit, where I was born and raised, and where my father is on the board of our very unique Holocaust Memorial Center. It's truly an honor to be able to share her story with you today. She was a remarkable woman. I'm proud to participate in this year's Annual Gathering of Remembrance, along with other members of the third generation, to introduce today's survivor candle lighters. 6 candles are lit as reminders of the 6 million Jews who perished in the Holocaust. The first candle is lit by Frances Malkin. Fran was just 2 years old when Germany invaded her native Poland. She and her family were forced into a ghetto soon after. The following year, the entire family went into hiding in the hayloft of a barn, where they spent 2 long years. Fran was able to immigrate to the United States in 1949 when she was 10 years old. Today, she's accompanied by Melissa Berger.
Please welcome Rebecca Faye.
My name is Rebecca Frank, and I'm the granddaughter of Riva Spitz Frank, who survived in an orphanage in the Soviet Union after her parents fled Nazi persecution in Poland. Every year at the annual gathering, people of all ages come together to say, "We will never forget." We are proud to be together, knowing that we are united in this mission. The second candle is lit by Maritza Shelley. Maritza was born in Budapest, Hungary in 1928. When the Germans occupied Hungary in 1944, Maritza was taken to a slave labor camp, then on a death march to the Mauthausen concentration camp. She escaped the death march and survived the rest of the war in Budapest in hiding using false papers. Maritza left Hungary in 1947 and moved to New York, where she worked as a photographer. Maritza is accompanied by Daniel Turna and Tara Ramadan.
We honor those who survived, creating a hopeful future while recognizing the significance of the past. My name is Lauren Jacobs, and I am the proud granddaughter of Betty Berlad, a Holocaust survivor from Vienna, Austria. Along with her older brother Herman, they managed to flee to the United States in a remarkable story of kindness and sponsorship. Prior to the rise of Hitler, teenage Herman came across Alice Springer, a young girl his age living in Fresno, California, when he found her information in a box of fruit when he was stocking his grandmother's grocery store. Herman wrote to Alice, and they became pen pals, unknowingly building a relationship that would save our family. After Kristallnacht, Herman begged Alice for help to escape Europe, and she successfully enlisted a local diamond philanthropist willing to sponsor our family. The third candle is lit by Mark Schonwetter, who was a young child in Brostek, Poland, when his family narrowly escaped extermination in a ghetto by going into hiding in the Polish countryside. By the end of the war, Mark was only of a few surviving Jews from his town. After emigrating from Poland to the United States in 1961, he worked in the jewelry industry. Mark is accompanied by Luba Schonwetter, Ann Arnold, Elizabeth Fink, and Ashley Arnold.
Seth Weisleder.
My name is Seth Weisleder, third-generation survivor. As I watch the 6 candlelighters light, I am remembering my grandparents, Doris Ehrman, Saul Weisleder, Felix Ehrman, my wife's grandmother, Ida, and Max Schenken. Today with my family, the 4th generation continues the message, and we share our history and hopes with each generation, our flame shining from the past through to the future. The 4th candle is lit by Ilana Yaari. Ilana was born in Warsaw, Poland, and spent 3 years in the Warsaw Ghetto as a child. Through the efforts of a Jewish policeman, Ilana was spared deportation and later smuggled out of the ghetto by her loving nanny. After the war, Ilana immigrated to Israel, where she served 2 years in the Israeli army, and later to the U.S., where she worked as the VP of Customer Relations at Cortel Technology. Ilana is accompanied by her generations of Mishpacha, Ronen, Ayal, Oren, Lior, Yaari, Talia, and Orly. May her and her family have much nachas from her grandchildren.
Helmets.
My name is Elizabeth Kamens, and I am remembering my grandfather, Rudolf Herz, and my grandmother, Trudy Siegel Herz. My grandfather, Rudolf Herz, was born in Worms, Germany, and survived Kristallnacht. He managed to escape Germany in 1939 by traveling through Sweden, Russia, Korea, and Japan. Upon arriving in America in 1941, he was suspected to be a spy for the Germans, but was ultimately drafted into the United States Army, where he was sent back to Germany to fight the Nazis, participating in the D-Day invasion. Each generation lights their candle to honor and celebrate resistance, resilience, renewal, and remembrance. The fifth candle is lit by Judith Koppel Steele, who was born in Berlin, Germany at the beginning of World War II. Her family escaped Germany in 1939 aboard the MS St. Louis, only to be turned away and sent back to Europe. Judith's father arranged for her to be hidden by a French Catholic family for the rest of the war. In 1946, she came to New York, where she was adopted by her aunt and uncle and was later ordained as a cantor. Judith is accompanied by her son, Gary Steele.
My name is Stephanie Butnick, and I'm the grandchild of Milton and Dora Butnick, who survived Auschwitz and Bergen-Belsen. They died when I was just a few years old, but thanks to the Museum of Jewish Heritage, my family is able to continue to honor and preserve their legacy. We invite you to light a candle in remembrance as well to mark Yom HaShoah, which begins tomorrow night, and we thank you for being part of this year's Annual Gathering of Remembrance. The sixth candle is lit by Rina Nudel. Rina was born in Lvov, Poland in 1932. When the Germans entered Lvov in 1941, she was taken with her mother to the Janowska concentration camp, where Rina's mother was able to save her by pushing 10-year-old Rina into a group of Jews about to be released from the camp. Rina later escaped the Lvov ghetto, went into hiding, and eventually fled to Ukraine, Romania, and then Israel. Rina became a nurse and moved to the United States in 1957. Rina is accompanied by Seth, Jordan, and Danielle Weisleder.
Zygmunt Ziggy Schipper, Ava Schrute, Alphonse Silverman, Helga Simmons, Ernest Simon, Renee Slotkin, Mike Jukowitz, Daisy Bitran, Ruth Blackman, Ralph Lubinsky,
Edith Oden, Leon Kaner, David Malik, Susan Meyer, Peter Newman, Eric Reich, Betty Shane, Robert Alfred Shaw, Louise Lucy Panterer, Evelyn Pike Rubin.
Hannah Laura Josephs, Jana Arshanskaya, Greta Wolf, Francis Waldeck, Bertha Weil, Frank Herbert Lee, Kenneth Appel, Ernst Gunther Aris, Muja Bagli, Ava Becker,
Angela Gross, Alexander Sugar, Stephanie Solomon, Gabriel Stern, Rita Bodner, Daisy Bertrand, Leo Friedler, Kurt Goldschmidt, Ruth Grant, and Susie Greenwood.
Please welcome Cantor Joseph Malovany.
Kindly rise. Hail, Malay, Rachamim, Dayan Almonois, Vahavi Yisrimim, Alena Secheshe, Vesis Apak, Ledam Yisrael, Shenishpach Kamoim, Hamitzei Menucha Nechena, Kanefei HaShechina, B'mahalo eskedoshim uteharim, Kezor ha'akiyah, Meirim u'mazehirim, Lenishemos Shisha Milyonei Acheino ve'yachyo eseino, Anashim Nashim Vatov, Shenerego ושנשחטו ושנשרפו ושנחנקו ונקברו חיים בידי הצוררים הגרמנים, הנאצים ויוזריהם ברחבי אירופה, יימח שמם וזכרם. כולם קדושים וטהורים, ובהם גאונים וצדיקים, ארזי הלבנון, אדירי בגן עדן תהי מנוחתם, לכן בעל ורחמים יסתירם בססר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור בצרור החיים אס נשמותיהם אדוני וינוחו בשלום.
Please welcome Cantor George Lindenblatt from Mourner's Cottage. Yishkadal v'yishkadash shemei rabo. Golmo divro chirusei v'yamlich malchusei. V'chayechon u'vyamechon v'chaye dechol beis Yisrael. V'agolo v'zman koriv v'imru. Amen.
Amen.
Yehei shlomo rabo min shomayo. V'chayim oleinu v'yakol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Yisborach v'yishtabach v'yispo'ar v'yisramam v'yisnaseh v'yishadar v'yisalel v'yishalal shemei dekudsha b'richu le'elah min kol birchoso v'shiroso tushbechoso v'nechemoso da'amirom v'yolmo v'imru. Amen.
Yehi Shlomo Rabbo Min Shemayo, V'chayim Oleinu V'Akol Yisrael V'imru Omein. Oser Shalom B'imramav, U'ya'aser Shalom Aleinu, V'yala Kol Yisrael, V'yimro Yimru Omein. Yaser Shalom, Yaser Shalom, Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael. Yaser Shalom, Yaser Shalom, Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael.
Please welcome the HaZamir Choir.
Sag nicht kein Olas, du gehst den letzten Weg. Gott schieben Laien, verstellen euer Weg. Kommen wird noch unser ausgebänkte Schau. Es wird erbeugt an unser Tod mit seinen da. Kommen wird noch unser ausgebänkte Schau. Es wird erbeugt an unser Tod mit seinen da. Von grünem Palmenland bis weißem Land und Schnee. Wir kommen an mit unser Pein, mit unser Wein. Ohne wo gefallen ist dieser Spritz von unser Blut. Sprotzen wird dort unser Gefurre, unser Mut. Und wo gefallen ist der Spritz von unser Blut. Sprotzen wird das unser Gefurre, unser Mut. Es wird die Morgens und begilden unser Heim. Und der Nächten wird verschwinden mit dem Pein. Noch abversamen mit die Sonne in dem Kajor. Wie ab Arosel gehen das Lied von Dorf zu Dorf. Noch abversamen mit die Sonne in dem Kajor. Wie ab Arosel gehen das Lied von Dorf zu Dorf. Das Lied geschrieben ist mit Blut und nicht mit Blei. Es ist nicht kein Liedl von a Vogel auf der Frei. Das hat a Volk zu wischen von dicke Welt. Das Lied gesungen mit na Gannes in die Hand. Das hat a Volk zu wischen von dieser Welt. Das Lied geschrieben, in gesungen, in die Hand. Das sagt kein Molas, du gehst den letzten Weg. Gott schimmeln bleien, verstellen bleie Tag. Kommen wird noch unser ausgebänkte Schau. Es wird erbeugt um unser Trott, wir seien da. Kommen wird noch unser ausgebänkte Schau. Es wird erbeugt um unser Trott, wir seien da.
This marks the end of our commemoration. On behalf of the Museum of Jewish Heritage, a living memorial to the Holocaust, stay well and safe, and thank you for joining us today.